All right, football is where we begin today's SportsMax Zone. On the eve of the quarterfinal first leg matches in the Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League playoffs, 4 of the 6 teams competing for the title will be in action Thursday under the lights at Sabina Park in Kingston. In the first encounter, Montego Bay United, who finished the regular season in 3rd, will face 6th-placed Tivoli Gardens. That's at 6 p.m., 7 ECT, while at 8:30, 9:30 ECT, reigning champions Cavalier will take on the 7-time winners Portmore United. Both matches will be live on SportsMax 2 and SportsMax Plus. All right, for now, we are going to ignore the elephant in the room and talk to Lejay Williams, who is on set with us, as we get into the excitement of the Jamaica Premier League playoffs. And Lejay, we had Owen Hill on set yesterday, and we were looking ahead a little bit to the action on Thursday. And one of the things I was saying to him, we've become so accustomed to the tempo rising, the crowds getting bigger, the football being excellent when it gets to the playoff of the Jamaica Premier League. Are you expecting much of the same this time around?
Yeah, I think so, because we'll have the best 6 teams, I think, in the country in the playoffs this season. I do think that for the most part, we should be expecting some pretty exciting football. The matchups are good. Typically, I would say, apart from maybe the Portmore and Cavalier encounter, so far from what we've seen from whenever these teams face off, it's always pretty exciting. So yeah, I'm expecting some really good football, and the matchups I'm definitely looking forward to those as well.
Yeah, let's talk about the Tivoli Gardens Montego Bay United matchup, because that will be the first one. That game, the first leg, set for 6 o'clock. What do you make of this head-to-head matchup?
Yeah, it's extremely intriguing. I think it's the more intriguing of the 2 games. Tivoli have caught some really good form towards the end of the season. They're playing some really good football, and the most important point to note for me is the fact that in the very last regular season game, when I would say it was a must-win for both teams, Tivoli beat Montego Bay United by 2-1 to book their place in the playoffs. Now, that was at Tivoli, not on the best surface, so possibly Montego Bay couldn't play their best football. And I mentioned their best football because another reason why the matchup is intriguing is because you see that 4-2 result and that 3-1 result favoring Montego Bay United. Both were from this season, and I would say those were 2 of the better attacking performances in the league just overall this past regular season. So it's going to be a good matchup, and another reason why I say it's extremely intriguing is the fact that those other 2 encounters both came under different management. So it was Rodolfo Zapata for the first victory, the 4-2 victory we're seeing highlights from here, and then for the second victory, where was even more impressive, that 3-1 victory. I think if I were to go out on a limb, based on the TV games alone, that was the most complete in-possession performance I've seen from a team this season. And Montego Bay United, they looked super fluid, but it was that transitional period between when Rodolfo Zapata was relieved of his duties and when they were going for Paul Teagat-Davis. So it was their assistant coach, and I assume that's why they got the freedom to play the football that they did on that night. So it's very interesting to see how Montego Bay have developed since. I don't see them playing the same type of fluid football, but they're certainly capable of it, and Tivoli will have to be very wary.
Yeah, you say Tivoli will have to be very wary, but interestingly, those wins for Montego Bay United came earlier in the season. This Tivoli team has been playing really well at the back end of the regular season, and I always like those teams coming into a playoff situation because I feel the momentum is with them, they have the form, and because of what I also know about Coach Jerome Waite and his ability to get teams ready for the playoffs, the fact that his teams are usually extremely fit and can last the distance, I sort of like Tivoli for an upset here. What say you?
I'm not quite sure about the upset factor. Reason being, I take all of your points. One, about the fitness, though, no team has ever played this long of a season in the regular season. 39 games is more than every top league in Europe, for example. And Tivoli don't have a deep squad. We saw Nikolai Fuller a couple of weeks ago get a little bit of a hamstring strain, has recovered, has played since and scored since against Montego Bay United, albeit. But yeah, I think it's going to be a test of the fitness of this Tivoli team. As I said, they don't have a deep squad. They'll be going into the game without Lennox Russell, who also scored the go-ahead goal in that 2-1 victory due to a red card. So that will be a big miss for them in attack. But one thing that I think that Tivoli will have in their locker is their ability, not only from their individual players. We're seeing one of them here, Nikolai Fuller, one of the best players in the league this season, in my opinion, but also their ability from set pieces. A large part of that is through the feet of Nikolai Fuller as well. Not only his direct free kicks, he scored the most direct free kicks in the regular season, but also his deliveries. So from corner kicks, I think they're fantastic. So it leads to Tivoli being a very, very solid team from that set piece zone. Not only at corner kicks and direct free kicks, but those free kicks that are delivered into the box. I think he creates an angle and I would like to say almost a whip and torque to them that is almost unrivaled. And I'm going to delve deeper into this when we go to the broadcast tomorrow for the Jamaica Premier League. We have a lot of things planned, people, don't miss it. But I said it and I wasn't saying it lightly, I wasn't saying it in hyperbole as well. Nikolai Fuller is a world-class set-piece taker in all facets, so that's a huge weapon. He's already scored a beauty against Montego Bay United as well in that 3-1 loss. But all of that being said, I think that, as I said, matchups are everything. If Montego Bay United play their best football, and when I say their best football, it's very associative. I say that because they play very close to one another. They play in a way where they have a lot of players around the ball. They knock the ball around extremely well. Yeah. And Tivoli, they play a man-marking system. Yeah. The best way to unsettle that is by constant movement and constant quick passes.
So you're saying the matchup favors Montego Bay United?
I think the matchup favors Montego Bay United if they can rekindle that form that they showed early in the season, or that style of play that they showed that they haven't been showing as of late. But a big reason why they haven't been showing that is because of they haven't had a consistency in lineup. If they were to go, and now they have much more resources, I think. When you think about that deeper area in midfield, you have Demario Phillips, who has had a very good season. Lucas Lima has had a very good season. Rankin, who we know is a very clutch player performer, he has come into his own since moving over to Montego Bay. And then, of course, they have a trump card, a player that made his debut for them in game week 36. And we know, based off talent alone, especially since Tyreek McGee and Nikhil Ellis are out of the competition at this point, Peter Lee Vassell, at his best, I'm not saying he's going to be at his best, he hasn't been playing a lot of football, is one of the best midfielders Jamaica has to offer. So that could be a very, very significant point as well. So for this game, I'm tentative, but I'm leaning towards Montego Bay United.
Yeah, we want to move on to the Cavalier game quickly, but I just want to give you a platform to build a little bit on your admiration for young Fuller, because I checked the scores and it appears to me as if all 5 goals that Tivoli have scored against Montego Bay United this season have been scored by Fuller. No other Tivoli player has scored.
4 out of the 5.
4 out of the 5.
Who 4 out of the 5. Lennox Russell scored the last one in the victory, the 2-1 victory. But apart from that, he has been involved, to his credit, he's been involved in all 5.
All 5, yes.
Because he's such a dangerous player, and I love his profile. He has a burst of speed, he's very skillful, he loves to take players on, very two-footed as well, never shy about taking a shot, extremely confident player, works hard, as any Jerome Waite winger would do. And as I mentioned, from set pieces, he's so dangerous from anywhere on the pitch, really. So I think that makes him one of the most dangerous players, not only for Tivoli, but in the playoffs in general.
Yeah, one of the good things about these quarterfinal playoffs is that every single team have been champions before. Yeah. So all of these teams know what it is like to go on to win the Jamaica Premier League. Cavalier and Portmore are up in the next fixture. Yeah. That's an important fixture. Cavalier have played undefeated against Portmore so far this season. Why has that been so? And do you think it will continue?
I'm leaning towards it continuing as well, because Portmore don't have enough in attack, or they haven't shown enough in attack this season. Portmore have played 39 regular season games. They've scored 46 goals. That's poor. That's really poor for a top 6 team. And to put it into context, they have scored at least, they've scored 15 less than the next worst team that is left in the Jamaica Premier League, and that's not good enough, in my opinion. I always make that joke on commentary that, and it's a fact now, because every other team left in the playoffs have at least 2 players and double-digit goals. Portmore's leading goal scorer has 5. That's tied between 3 players, one of them who isn't even at the club anymore. They brought in Jeremy Lynch. He suffered a broken nose, I believe, and hasn't been playing at all, really, for the past couple of weeks. I'm not quite sure of his status because, JPL teams like to hide everything for some odd reason. I guess we'll find out when we get the lineup tomorrow. But I'm not sure of his status for tomorrow. But if he's able to play, that would be a big boost for them. But Portmore, overall, their attack is not good enough. What can carry them through is the fact that they have the second best defense in the league. And they have been defending really well. But Cavalier are a team that know how to turn it up at these times in the season, and they have a lot of weapons in fantastic form. Dwayne Atkinson has been scoring for fun lately, 12 league goals to his name. Of course, Jalmara Calvin, he has been scoring at a frantic rate as well, 20 league goals to his name. And I think that there's a specific tactic. Once again, people, make sure you watch that preview show that we'll have tomorrow for the league. It's going to be we're going to be going even more in-depth, I think, than we have time for on this show. But yeah, Cavalier, they have a lot of attacking weapons. I think that will stretch Portmore a little bit too thin. Yeah,
you referenced the length of the season and the fact that no regular season has been this long before in the Jamaica Premier League. That because there are 14 teams playing prior to previous years when there were fewer teams involved. What does that tell you about the importance of current form for the teams? Because I see Cavalier have lost probably just one of their last 8 or 9 games towards the back end of the regular season. And I know during the season when Cavalier may not have won or may not have done as well as fans think they should have, Speed was very philosophical about the results, saying that he knows what he's doing and he only wants to get the team fit for the playoffs. Are they on target?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. They're playing really well, and as I mentioned, their best players are hitting form at the right time. Dwayne Atkinson, he was crowned the best player in the Caribbean at the CONCACAF Caribbean Cup, and it's hard to argue with that. He's hitting great form. Jalmara Calvin is never out of form, it seems. Rigtas is playing really well. Shaquille Stein is playing really well. I think they're striking a really good balance in midfield because Dwayne Allen is moving forward and developing really well as well. I still think that there are some defensive issues for them to sort out, but I think by the time they get around to deeper in the playoffs, if they advance past Portmore, they'll sort those out. So they're hitting form at the right time, and I would say that probably the only team that isn't banging form going into the playoffs would probably be Portmore.
Yeah, I was going to go there because they've lost 2 of their last 3, and in 2 of their losses they didn't actually score any goals.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat as well because Portmore have lost 9 games this season to go back to their attacking problems, and in 8 of those 9 they haven't scored. So they tend to, when they lose, go out with a whimper. It's not only the fact that they aren't scoring, it's that when the defense, I think, is holding up well enough, they can't help out that defense in attack.
Yeah, and Rodolph Austin, although he played most of his career as a midfielder, he was basically a defensive midfielder, and towards the back end of his playing career, he played defense.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if the coach's influence is part of the reason why Portmore's defense is so solid.
Yeah, I think that they just set up really well. I was looking at it and I was watching the games ahead of all the analysis we'll be doing tomorrow, especially rewatching a lot of Portmore games, and I could not quite put my finger on, apart from a few tactical issues, that why Portmore aren't scoring. They just miss a lot. I don't quite. They create chances. I'm not saying they don't create chances. I would say they have their small tactical issues. Maybe their build-up, I think, is a little bit too wide. They move the ball a little bit too slowly. But most Jamaican teams don't press them enough for that to be an issue. But I think when they get into those attacking areas, they just don't have someone clinical enough to finish chances. And Jeremy Lynch was supposed to be that person. Did start off well, scoring 3 goals, getting dangerously, perilously close to being their top goal scorer for the season, having only played 6-7 games. So it's just difficult. They need someone to put the ball in the back of the net.
Can I ask you quickly about the surface at Sabina Park? Because based on the Sabina Park surface, it will be a different surface from most football fields in the country. Does that in itself favor any of the teams involved in these quarterfinal playoffs? And I'm not restricting the question just to the Cavalier-Portmore game, but I will also look at the the Tivoli Montego Bay match as well.
I think it should. Well, Montego Bay's surface isn't bad. It isn't awful, but I think the Sabina Park surface is a little bit more slick, and that's why I said if Montego Bay can play their football, their best football, it's highly possible that they could turn over a couple of teams because of how they zip it around. Mount Pleasant, I'm sure, would love it as well. Cavalier, it's technically their home ground, so they should probably be used to it also. I think those three teams, the teams that play some really good stuff, Arnett Gardens, who play their quick transitional football, and Portmore, I'm not quite sure how it will affect them. But I do think that the surface, if it's in the best condition, because there has been cricket played there as of late, Senior Cup and Ray and Tay, but I do think that if the surface is in a good condition, we'll see some pretty slick football.
Yeah, we certainly look forward to that. By the way, you know, of the 7 titles Portmore have won, if you've followed their history, you'll realize that they've won a few of those titles on the strength of their defense. So it wouldn't be the first time if they go all the way, although it seems unlikely at this stage. Well, Legit, that's all the time we have for today. By the way, if you need any moral support as a team, we're here for you. We know it's a difficult time for you at this stage, and you're going through a tough time. We understand. We're not totally sorry for you, but we understand. And
why you lumping in Sir Lads? Sir Lads has not said anything. I don't know why you're saying we.
He's that type of guy. He's not going to say anything, but he stands with me.
If you say so, Ricardo.
Okay. No. Let me make a point here, Ricardo. Your attitude towards Arsenal is caustic, and I'm not caustic towards Arsenal.
I mean, Sir Lads.
So there's a difference.
Talk to him.
Or you're just not a caustic person generally.
Well, maybe not.
Anyhow, I'm still waiting on the Premier League title that Legit told us 3 years ago that Arsenal would win the next season. Anyhow, we're out of time. We have to go to a break. We're here for you, Legit. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone.